Ethan had always loved the ocean, but he never thought he would end up stranded on a deserted island in the middle of it. The ship he had been on had sunk during a violent storm, leaving him with nothing but his survival instincts. Alone. With no idea of when help would come, he spent his days searching for food, fresh water, and any sign of civilization. The island was small, surrounded by tall cliffs that made escape impossible. Ethan spent his mornings searching the shoreline for anything useful, and his afternoons exploring the dense jungle. He kept a fire going at all times, hoping that someone would find him. But as the days went by, he began to lose hope. On the 5th day, Ethan was walking along a narrow trail in the jungle when he heard something strange, a faint sound like someone calling out in pain. It was weak, but it was there. Stopped and listened, heart racing. The sound came again, this time more clearly. It wasn't human, but it was close. Without thinking, Ethan followed the noise through the thick underbrush. It led him to a hidden clearing near the edge of the island, where he saw something he never expected to see. A woman, unconscious, and lying on the ground, surrounded by a strange, glowing light. Ethan rushed to her side. She was injured, her clothes torn, and her skin was pale. But what stood out the most was her appearance. She wasn't human. Her features were delicate and foreign, her long hair shimmering with a color that seemed almost otherworldly. Her eyes, even in her unconscious state, seemed to glow faintly. Like two stars in the night sky, he knelt down beside her, his heart pounding. He didn't know if she was dead or alive, but he couldn't just leave her there. He gently shook, her trying to wake her. "Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me?" After a few moments, the woman stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked up at him in confusion. She blinked several times as if trying to focus. Then, with a weak voice, she spoke. "Who are you?" she whispered. Her accent was strange, but the words were clear. Ethan was taken aback. "I'm Ethan. I found you. What happened? Are you all right?" The woman tried to sit up, wincing in pain. She looked around, then back at him. I crashed. My ship. It's broken." Ethan frowned, unsure of what she meant. "Your ship? Are you from another island?" His eyes searched her face, hoping for a clue about where she was from. She shook her head slowly, her expression becoming serious. "No, I'm not from here. I'm from another world. My ship was destroyed in space. I don't know where. I am." Ethan was stunned. He had heard stories of alien visitors before. Important one. "Do you need help?" he asked, offering his hand. She hesitated for a moment, then took it. "Yes, but I can't stay here long. There are others. They are looking for me." "Who?" Ethan asked, narrowing his eyes. "The ones who destroyed my ship," she replied quietly. "They will come for me. And if they find me here, they will destroy everything." Ethan's mind raced as he helped her to her feet. He didn't know what to make of everything she had just said. An alien, stranded on an island, with enemies hunting her down, sounded impossible, but the fear in her eyes was real. And the strange energy that seemed to surround her confirmed that there was more to this story than he could understand. He looked around the jungle, feeling a chill run down his spine. The island seemed quiet, but he had a strange feeling that something was wrong. Something about this place didn't feel natural. It was as if the land itself was alive, watching them. "What do we do now?" Ethan asked, turning back to the woman. She looked up at him, her eyes bright with determination. "We need to fix my ship. It's the only way we can escape." Ethan nodded, still unsure of what he had gotten himself into. But one thing was clear: his life was about to change forever. This was no longer just about surviving on an island. He had found something far more dangerous and far more important than he could have ever imagined as they made their way. Back to the clearing, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the island was somehow alive, as if it were reacting to their presence. The jungle seemed to close in around them, and the air grew heavier, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he focused on the alien woman beside him, who seemed to know more about this place than he did. She was his only hope. And for some reason, he felt like his survival depended on helping her. No matter what dangers lay ahead, the air was thick with tension, as Ethan and Zara made their way back toward the clearing where she had been lying. The jungle, which had seemed so quiet before, now felt different, almost like it was watching them. The trees swayed gently, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something about the island just didn't feel right. As they reached the clearing, Zara seemed to weaken again, her steps faltering. Ethan noticed how pale she looked, and he couldn't help but feel a surge of concern. "Are you all right?" he asked, keeping a hand on her arm for support. Zara gave him a weak smile, but didn't answer right away. Instead, her eyes scanned the area, her gaze darting from one corner of the clearing to another, as if looking for something. I'm not sure," she murmured, her voice filled with exhaustion. "The energy here is different. My body is reacting to it." Ethan didn't know what she meant by energy, but he couldn't ignore the strange feeling that had settled in his stomach. He tried to focus on the immediate problem at hand. "Need to get you somewhere safe," he said, his voice firm. "Let's get some rest, and then we'll figure out what to do next." Zara nodded weakly, sitting down on a large stone near the center of the clearing. Ethan crouched down beside her, trying to think of a way to help her. But everything seemed so unfamiliar. He had no idea how to fix a spaceship, especially not one from another world. He glanced up at the sky, hoping to see some sign of help. But all he could see were clouds drifting lazily by. There was no sign of anyone, no planes, no ships, no other people. He felt completely isolated. "What do we do now?" Ethan asked, his voice quieter this time. "How do we get your ship? Working again?" Zara's eyes shifted toward him, and for the first time since he'd found her, she looked unsure. "It's not easy," she said slowly. "The ship's power system it's advanced, but it relies on energy from the planet's core. At this island, this place, it's interfering with everything. I can't communicate with my ship properly, and the energy here is blocking most of my abilities." Ethan frowned, trying to understand what she was saying. "So, the island's messing with your technology?" "Yes," Zara replied, her voice growing more serious. "I don't know how or why, but the island is ancient. It's like it's alive in a way. My people built it long ago as a place of exile. They thought it was safe, but something went wrong. The energy here is trapped. Now it's preventing me from fixing my ship." Ethan didn't know what to say. He had never heard of anything like this before. He looked at Zara, trying to find a way to help her, but everything she said only raised more questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? And what kind of enemies was she running from? "Can't you just use your ship's power to break through the island's energy field?" Ethan asked, trying to think of a solution. Zara shook her head. "Not that simple. The power system is damaged, and I don't have the resources to fix it. If I could, I would have left by now. But I need your help, Ethan." Ethan stared at her, unsure of what to do. This was all so much to take in. One minute, he was trying to survive on a deserted island, and the next, he was helping an alien who claimed to be stranded after a failed escape from some kind of galactic war. He wasn't sure if he should trust her, but there was something in her quiet desperation that made him want to believe her. "All right," he said, standing up and brushing dirt from his pants. "What do we need to do?" Zara hesitated for a moment before answering. "There's a cave on the other side of the island. It's the only place where I can access my ship's systems without interference. But we'll need to move quickly. If my enemies catch up to us—" "Yeah, I get it," Ethan interrupted. "We'll get to the cave. But how do you know they're close?" Zara's eyes flashed with something that looked like fear. "I can feel them. They have a way of tracking me. It's part of their technology." Ethan's stomach twisted. The idea of being hunted by alien forces was terrifying, but he couldn't leave her alone. Not now. "We'll go to the cave," Ethan said, his voice steady. "But we need to move fast. I'm not letting anyone find us, especially not your enemies." Zara's lips curled into a faint smile. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know if I could have made it without you." Ethan didn't say anything more. Instead, he helped her to her feet, and together, they made their way toward the other side of the island. The jungle was dense, and the path was treacherous, but they pressed on. The only sound was the crunch of leaves underfoot and the occasional bird call from somewhere above. As they walked, Ethan couldn't help but glance over his shoulder. The island felt strange, like it was alive and watching them. Couldn't explain it, but he felt like they were being followed. It was as if the island itself was aware of their every move. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they reached the cave. The entrance was hidden behind a thick curtain of vines, but Ethan cleared the way. Inside the cave was dark and cool, and the air was thick with the smell of moss and earth. Zara led him deeper into the cave, where she pulled out a small device from her pocket. "This will allow me to access my ship's systems," she explained, her fingers moving quickly as she worked the device. "But I need time. I have to synchronize it with the ship's energy core."
I've been used to feeling this nervous.
But then again, he wasn't used to being stuck on a strange island with an alien. Zara didn't look up from the device, but her voice was calm, reassuring. "I need to synchronize with my ship's systems. It's not easy, and the islands. Interference makes it harder. I don't know how long it will take. Depends on how much power I can draw from the environment." Ethan nodded but stayed close by, watching her closely. He could sense the urgency in her actions. But there was something else in her eyes, a mix of fear and determination that only seemed to grow as the minutes passed. Finally, Zara looked up, her face pale, but her expression firm. I need your help," she said quietly. "No. I can fix my ship, but it won't work unless I can draw more power from the island's core. The problem is the island's energy is blocked. It's like a barrier that prevents me from accessing the full potential of my ship's technology." Ethan frowned, trying to make sense of it all. "So what are you saying? That the island itself is stopping you from fixing your ship?" Zara nodded. "Yes. And if we don't act quickly, we might lose the chance to escape before my enemies catch up." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Enemies. You keep mentioning these enemies. Who are they?" Zara hesitated for a moment before answering. "They are a warlike race from my galaxy. They hunt me because I stole something from them, a piece of technology that they believe gives them ultimate power. I didn't mean to steal it. It was an accident, but they don't care about that. All they want is to get it back. They'll stop at nothing to destroy me and anyone who stands in their way." Ethan's mind raced. He'd never been in a situation like this before. It was just a normal gyno. Special skills, no great powers. Yet here he was, caught in the middle of an alien conflict on a strange island. He thought about the peaceful life he had left behind before the storm. Would he ever go back to that? Or had his life changed forever? "Sorry, why me?" Ethan asked, the question weighing heavily on his chest. "Why come to me for help? What makes you think I can do anything to stop these enemies?" Zara's eyes softened, and she stood up slowly, her voice quieter than before. "Because you are human," she said. "You have something that they don't understand, unique strength. Your kind humans are not like the other species I've encountered. Your adaptability, your determination, your willingness to fight even when the odds are against you, these things make you stronger than you realize." Ethan didn't know what to say. He had never thought of himself as anything special. He was just a regular guy trying to survive.
Ow.
But hearing Zara's words made him feel something inside, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. She continued. "Help to access the island's core. The energy here is blocking my ship's systems, but if we can tap into it, we can power my ship long enough to escape. I can't do it alone." Ethan thought about the offer. Wasn't sure what was involved in helping her, but the idea of getting off the island was tempting. Yet the thought of facing an alien army was terrifying. Could he really help her? Could he be brave enough to do what was needed? "I'll do it," he said finally, his voice steady, though his heart pounded in his chest. "I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm not leaving you here. If you need me, I'll help, but you have to promise me something." Zara raised an eyebrow, clearly curious. "What?" "That once we get your ship working, you'll take me with you," Ethan said. "I don't care where we go, but I don't want to stay here. I don't want to face whatever enemies you're talking about on my own. I want out of this place." Zara studied him for a long moment, her eyes unreadable. Then slowly, she nodded. "Promise," she said. "Once we leave, you'll come with me. But you need to understand something. This isn't just about survival. It's about more than that. My enemies won't stop. They will come for us. And if they find us before we're ready—" "I get it," Ethan interrupted. "We'll make it." "Sure, we're ready. I'll help you get your ship back online. We'll fight whatever comes our way." Zara's eyes softened again, and for the first time, she smiled, a small, almost sad smile. "Thank you, Ethan. You don't know what this means to me." Ethan wasn't sure if he fully understood, but he did know one thing: he couldn't leave her to face everything alone. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with her. Together, the night grew darker around them as Zara began to work once again. Her focus intense as she connected her device to the rock walls of the cave, drawing power from the island's strange energy. Ethan watched her, his thoughts swirling. He couldn't help but wonder what awaited them once they escaped the island. Would they be safe? Or was this just the beginning of a far greater journey? As the cave filled with the faint hum of the device, Ethan took a deep breath. The unknown was terrifying, but he was no longer afraid. Whatever came next, he would face it head-on. And for the first time since the shipwreck, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope. The cave was silent, save for the quiet hum of the device Zara was using. The energy around them seemed to shift with every passing moment. Ethan sat across from her, his mind racing with questions and uncertainty. The island, the mysterious alien woman, the enemies hunting her, all of it felt like something out of a dream. Yet here he was, part of a story much bigger than he had ever imagined. Zara worked diligently, her hands moving swiftly as she adjusted the device, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Ethan couldn't help but watch her, mesmerized by the way she seemed, so calm, so focused. It was as if she had done this before, even though he knew she was just as trapped on this island as he was. "Zara," Ethan said after a long pause, breaking the silence, "what exactly is this island? I mean, you've mentioned the island's power before, but I don't really understand what you mean." Zara glanced up at him, her expression serious. She seemed to hesitate for a moment before speaking, as if weighing her words. "The island is old," she began slowly, her voice steady. "Very old. It was once a thriving place for my people, a home, a sanctuary. But something happened. A long time ago, a mistake was made. The island's energy was ... disturbed. It's been locked away ever since, preventing anyone from leaving or using its power properly." Ethan frowned. "So, the island itself is dangerous?" "Yes," Zara replied, her voice heavy with regret. "It's not just the physical dangers. The island has a consciousness of its own. It reacts to the people who come here, and it interferes with their attempts to escape. It's not something that can be controlled by simple technology. The power here is beyond anything I've encountered." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He had always known the island felt strange, but hearing Zara describe it this way made it seem even more unsettling. He had assumed it was just a random place, but now he understood that the island itself was part of the mystery. A place with power that might be working against them. "Do you think the island knows we're here?" Ethan asked Zara. Nodded, her gaze distant. "It's aware of us, yes. But it's not an enemy, it's just trying to protect itself. And unfortunately, we're part of that disturbance." The idea that an island could have a kind of consciousness was hard to wrap his mind around. But the more he thought about it, the more it seemed to explain the strange feeling he had ever since landing there. Every step he took on the island felt like it was being watched, every sound amplified, every movement sharp with anticipation. "What exactly do you need to do to fix your ship?" Ethan asked, trying to focus on the task at hand. Zara took a deep breath, snapping out of her thoughts. "I need to connect the device to the ship's core, but right now that's impossible. The energy field around us is blocking communication with the ship's systems. If I can find a way to tap into the island's core, I can power up the ship enough to leave. But it's dangerous. The core isn't something to be tampered with lightly. It can cause more harm than good." Ethan stood up, pacing a bit as he thought. "So we need to find a way to tap into it, but without causing too much damage?" Zara nodded. "Exactly. The balance of the energy is delicate. It's too much interference and the island will fight back. That's why I need your help. I can access the energy, but I can't do it alone. I need to be careful. We need to find a way to unlock the power, Ethan said, determination in his voice. Is there a way to use these markings? Maybe they're the key. Zara looked at him with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. You're right, she said, her voice softening. I hadn't considered that. These symbols might be the link we need. They're a part of the process used to control the energy. If we can decipher them, we may be able to access the island's core. Ethan felt a spark of hope, but it was quickly followed by doubt. How do we even begin to figure this out? I'm not exactly an expert in ancient alien technology. Zara smiled faintly, a glint of humor in her eyes. Neither am I, but together we might have a chance. They spent the next few hours studying the markings on the walls, carefully tracing their patterns and trying to make sense of the symbols. It was slow work, and the air in the cave grew heavier as the sun set outside. Every time they thought they were getting closer, the symbols seemed to shift, as if the island itself was testing them. Finally, after hours of studying, Zara stopped, her fingers hovering over one of the symbols. I think I found it, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan looked over her shoulder, his heart pounding. What do we do now? We need to activate it, Zara said, her voice steady. But we have to be careful. If we do this wrong, we could make things worse. The energy here is volatile. Ethan nodded, his mind racing. This was it. The moment that could either save them more, trap them here forever. As Zara reached out to touch the symbol, the entire cave seemed to tremble. The walls vibrated and a low hum filled the air. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Whatever it was about to happen, it was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. The vibrations in the cave grew stronger, sending a ripple of unease through Ethan's body. He stood beside Zara, watching her fingers hover over the symbol on the wall. The air around them felt charged, like static before a storm. Every breath Ethan took seemed to echo in his chest, his heart pounding faster with each passing second. Zara, Ethan whispered, his voice tense. What's happening? This place. It feels like it's about to explode. Zara didn't respond immediately. Her gaze was fixed on the glowing symbol, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against. It's reacting, she said, her voice calm but urgent. The island is trying to block us. But if we're lucky, this will work. Ethan didn't understand exactly what she meant, but he could feel the growing intensity of the energy in the cave. The walls seemed to pulse, as if the island itself were alive and aware of their actions. It was like every step they took, every move they made, was pushing the island's limits. And Ethan couldn't help but wonder how much more it could take. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. Low, growling sound filled the air, and the temperature in the cave seemed to drop. Ethan's breath came out in visible puffs, and he could see the worry in Zara's eyes as she pulled her fingers away from the symbol. The glow from the markings dimmed, and the hum that had filled the cave faded into a heavy silence. What just happened? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Zara swallowed hard, her face pale. The island is angry, she said, her voice shaking slightly. We've triggered something. I didn't think it would happen so soon, but now it's coming for us. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, it's coming for us? What is... Before Zara could respond, the sound of something heavy crashing through the jungle echoed from outside the cave. It was distant at first, but it quickly grew louder, as if something massive was heading straight for them. The air felt thick with tension, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with an energy that wasn't just from the island. Ethan's pulse quickened as he looked toward Zara. What is that? He asked, his voice tight with fear. Zara's expression grew darker. It's them, my enemies. They found us. Ethan's stomach twisted. He had heard Zara speak of these enemies before, but he hadn't expected them to come so soon. The sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, and Ethan's thoughts raced. They had to get out of the cave. Had to move now. Can we fix your ship in time? Ethan asked, grabbing her arm. Zara nodded, though her face was grim. We don't have much time. The ship's core is almost ready, but the island's energy is unstable. I need more time to fully access it. "We don't have time," Ethan replied urgently. "They're coming." A massive roar echoed through the jungle, sending a shiver down Ethan's spine. Whatever was coming toward them, it was enormous. The air felt heavy with the sense of danger, and every second stretched out longer than the last. They had to leave. They had to move fast. Zara grabbed the device she had been working with and stood up. "We'll have to finish the rest of the work at the ship. I'll be able to access the core there." Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the exit of the cave. The jungle outside was quiet for a moment, but that didn't last long. The sound of the approaching enemy grew louder, and Ethan's heart raced as he pushed through the thick underbrush. The path to the ship was long. They had no way of knowing what dangers lay ahead. They moved quickly, but the jungle seemed to resist them. The trees were thick, and the ground uneven, making every step a challenge. The air felt oppressive, and every rustle of leaves seemed to send Ethan's heart racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. The island's energy pulsed with every step they took, as if it were reacting to their presence. "How far?" Ethan gasped as they pushed through the thick foliage. "Not far," Zara said, her voice strained. "But we need to hurry." The noise from behind them was growing louder. Whatever was coming, it was closing in fast. Ethan could hear the pounding of heavy footsteps now, like something or someone was chasing them. Glanced over his shoulder. Ethan turned around to see a group of alien soldiers, their armored bodies glinting in the dim light. They were tall, with sharp features and glowing eyes. Their weapons were raised, and their faces were set in expressions of cold determination. They had found them. Zara stepped in front of Ethan, her body tense. "Stay behind me," she said, her voice firm. "I'll protect you." Ethan's mind raced. He didn't know what to do. These were her enemies, the ones she had been running from. And now they were here closing in on them, Zara. Ethan started, his voice shaking. "What are we going to do?" She turned to him, her eyes burning with resolve. "We fight," she said simply. "We fight to survive." Without another word, she moved toward the entrance of the ship, the alien soldiers closing in behind them. Ethan didn't hesitate. He followed her, knowing that the fight for their lives was just beginning. The air outside the ship felt charged with an eerie stillness as the alien soldiers closed in on Zara and Ethan. The jungle behind them had fallen quiet, but the sound of heavy footsteps, the clicking of weapons being prepared, and the crackling energy in the air made it clear that there was no turning back now. Zara reached the entrance of her ship first, her hands trembling as she quickly worked to open the hatch. The metallic door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the dimly lit interior of the ship. The hum of its engines was faint but steady, almost as if it were waiting for them. "Get inside," Zara urged, her voice tight with urgency. Ethan didn't. "Need any more encouragement?" His heart was pounding in his chest as he rushed inside, his mind focused solely on the ship and the escape that was almost within reach. Zara followed closely behind him, slamming the door shut just as the first of the alien soldiers appeared in the clearing. The inside of the ship was nothing like anything Ethan had ever seen. The walls were smooth and glowing faintly, and strange alien technology lined every surface. It felt like they were inside something alive, the ship pulsating with power. Zara moved swiftly, heading toward a control panel that was mounted on one side of the room. "Start the engine, Zara," Ethan said, his voice strained. "We have to leave now." Zara shook her head, her brow furrowed with worry. "I can't, not yet. The island is blocking the ship's energy, and I need to complete the connection before we can leave. It's too dangerous to take off without fixing it." Ethan glanced at the view screen, which showed the alien soldiers now spreading out across the jungle. They were getting closer. "How much time do we have?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "Not much," Zara replied, her eyes scanning. "The control panel. I need just a few more moments." Ethan's mind raced. They didn't have much time. Soldiers were already approaching the ship's entrance, their footsteps unmistakable now. He could hear them speaking in a language he didn't understand, their voices low but commanding. Whatever they planned to do, it wasn't going to be good for either of them. With no choice but to trust Zara, Ethan turned toward the entrance. and braced himself for what was coming. The ship's walls trembled as the alien soldiers drew near. He could hear them shouting orders outside. The tension in the air was thick, and Ethan's hands tightened around the blaster that Zara had given him earlier. "You need to finish quickly," Ethan said, his voice low but urgent. "They're almost here." Zara didn't respond, her focus entirely on the control panel in front of her. She was working fast, her fingers flying over the buttons and switches. Ethan's eyes darted to the hatch, watching for any sign of movement. He knew that when the aliens arrived, there would be no time to waste. He would have to fight. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the outside of the ship, followed by the unmistakable sound of a weapon charging. The soldiers had arrived. The ship shook again, and Ethan's heart raced. They were out of time. "They're here," Ethan shouted, turning to Zara. "You have to do it now." Zara's eyes flashed with determination. "Hold them off as long as you can," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm almost there." Ethan nodded, his breath coming faster as he made his way toward HFY door. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. He had to protect Zara long enough for her to finish whatever she was doing. He gripped the blaster tightly in his hands and took a deep breath. The ship was their only chance to escape, and if he failed now, it would all be over. The door to the ship began to shake as the alien soldiers outside tried to force their way in. Ethan rushed to the controls, preparing to lock the door, but before he could, a loud thud shook the ship, followed by a series of sharp, metallic clangs. The soldiers were trying to breach the hull. "They're coming," Ethan shouted. Zara didn't look up. "I just need a few more seconds." "Stay focused, Ethan." Ethan stepped back to the door, watching as the soldiers outside prepared to break through. His mind raced as he thought of what to do. He knew they couldn't fight off an entire group of armed aliens. But the ship, if they could get it to work, it was their only chance. The wall of the ship suddenly lit up, and a low hum filled the air as the energy from the island connected with the ship's systems. Zara's eyes widened in relief. "It's working," she exclaimed. "I've done it." "Bet." Before Ethan could say anything, the door to the ship's entrance burst open with a violent crash. 3 alien soldiers rushed inside, their weapons aimed directly at him. Ethan barely had time to react before one of them fired. But just as the blast was about to hit, a bright light flashed from the back of the ship. The energy from the island surged through the ship and the soldiers froze. The force of the ship's power threw them back, their bodies slamming into the walls as they were knocked off their feet. Ethan didn't waste a second. He grabbed the blaster, firing at the soldiers as they scrambled to get back up. One by one, they fell, stunned by the force of the ship's energy. Zara was right, they had to escape. "Go, get us out of here," Ethan shouted, watching as the soldiers struggled to rise. Zara didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted toward the control panel and slammed her hands down on the final switches. The ship's engines roared to life, and the entire vessel shook as it began to lift off the ground. Ethan didn't know if the alien soldiers were dead or just temporarily stunned, but that didn't matter. He had one goal: no getting out of the island's atmosphere. He turned and ran toward the back of the ship, where Zara was already pulling up the ship's controls, sending them into the sky. The ground shook as the ship left the island behind. The jungle and the soldiers faded away as they soared higher and higher into the air. The stars above them seemed to stretch on forever, and for the first time since they had landed, Ethan felt a sense of hope. They were leaving the island. They were finally free. But as they moved farther from the island, the looming question remained: where would they go next? The ship soared higher into the sky, leaving the island behind. Ethan watched as the lush jungle below turned into a patchwork of green and brown, the towering cliffs growing smaller and smaller. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air, steady and powerful, but a lingering unease settled over him. They had escaped the island, but the journey ahead was just beginning. Zara sat in the pilot's seat, her hands moving swiftly over the controls. Her eyes were focused, but there was a hint of exhaustion in her expression. The events of the past few days had clearly taken a toll on her. Ethan could see the weight of it in her every move. How long until we're out of the island's energy? Field? Ethan asked, his voice filled with curiosity and concern. Zara glanced up, meeting his gaze. Not long. The ship is drawing power from the island, but it'll take a little more time to stabilize the systems. Once we're clear of the island's interference, I can initiate the next phase of our journey. Ethan nodded, still trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The ship, the enemies, the strange powers of the island, it was all so much to take in. One thing was clear, the island had been just the beginning. They had escaped, but the universe was vast, and they were still very much in danger. What happens next? Ethan asked, his voice quieter this time. Where do we go? Zara's fingers hovered over the controls, her expression thoughtful. I don't know. I need to contact my people and make sure we're safe, but I haven't been able to communicate. With anyone in a long time? The enemy. They might be looking for us already. Ethan's stomach tightened. The idea that they might not be safe yet was terrifying. He had only just begun to trust Zara, and now they were flying into an uncertain future. What if they catch up to us? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. Zara turned to him, her eyes softening with empathy. If they do, we'll fight, but we have a chance now. The ship is powerful, and the energy I've tapped into gives us the upper hand. Just need to be careful. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He had already been through so much more than he could have ever imagined, but the thought of what lay ahead made him anxious. The unknown was a dangerous thing, but he wasn't alone. He had Zara, and she had him. He glanced out the window, watching as the stars grew brighter and closer. The vastness of space stretched out before them, endless and mysterious. It was a sight both beautiful and overwhelming. I didn't sign up for this, Ethan said with a half laugh, his voice full of disbelief. Zara smiled faintly, the first smile he had seen from her since they had left the island. Neither did I, she replied, but we're in this together now. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Together, that word meant more than he realized. It was a promise, a bond that had formed in the midst of danger, uncertainty, and survival. He wasn't just helping Zara anymore. He was a part of her journey. She was a part of his. For a moment, the ship flew in silence. The hum of the engines and the occasional beeping from the control panels, the only sounds. Ethan's mind wandered as he thought about his life before the island, before all of this. He had been a man with no real purpose, just going through the motions. But now, everything had changed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was part of something bigger, something he couldn't yet fully understand. I've been thinking, Ethan said, his voice breaking the silence. What if you don't want me with you after all this is over? I mean, you came to me for help, but ... Zara turned in her seat to face him, her eyes serious but kind. Ethan, I wouldn't have made it this far without you. You've been a part of this from the moment you found me. I can't just leave you behind. Ethan's chest tightened, as she meant it. The way she looked at him, the way she spoke, he wasn't just some random human to her. He had become important, and in that moment, he realized just how much that meant to him. But where do we go now? Ethan asked, the question still weighing on him. I don't know anything about space or the people you're talking about. What if we don't belong anywhere? Zara smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. There's always a place for you, Ethan, even if you don't understand it yet. And as for the rest, we'll figure it out together. Ethan felt a sense of peace wash over him. The uncertainty was still there, but it didn't seem as overwhelming now. They would face whatever came next, together. As they continued their journey through the stars, Ethan thought about what Zara had said. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he felt like he had a purpose. The island was behind them, and whatever enemies waited in the darkness of space didn't seem so terrifying when he wasn't facing them alone. The stars outside the window shimmered, distant and bright, as if inviting them to explore. And the first time since his shipwreck, Ethan felt a strange sense of calm. He wasn't just a man stranded on an island anymore. He was part of something far greater, and whatever happened next, he would face it with Zara by his side.